Hey guys, welcome to the Archetype of Man channel. I'm Nick. Today's video is kind of out of my comfort zone by a good bit. I don't like putting a whole lot of super personal stuff out there. One, because everybody has an opinion, and what's done is done at this point. And the other side of that is I don't want it to come across like I'm looking for sympathy or any of that. There's none of that involved here. We had to put our 11-year-old pit bull mix, American Bulldog mix, down. Her name was Jessie Jo. I'd had her for almost a decade. So that's what this video is about, or the kind of the catalyst for what this video is about. I may ramble a bit. I think I'm composed enough to put this together now. So I've never had to do that with a dog. I've never had to put a dog down, make the call, anything. The few dogs that I'd had into their senior years had died on their own. It was never something that was left up to me. They weren't visibly suffering beforehand. So this sucked. There's no other way to put it. I don't wish that on anybody. So what led to all this, from a dog that had been moving slower but otherwise seemed fine. Callie, you guys had seen her on the channel. Jessie Jo was terrified of guns, by the way. So she was not like Callie. She wouldn't come out here and shoot. There might be some stuff floating around that I filmed over inside the house, but she was not one to come over here to the gun range, which is a big part of why you guys hadn't seen her. And I'll be rolling pictures in as we go through here. But her and Callie had gotten along. Callie had always been deferential to her. And then out of the blue, on Sunday, I got a call from my wife while I was out hunting saying, hey, I need you to come home. The dogs are into it. The kids were around. They're separated now, but I don't know what's going on. So I get home. Callie is still being submissive to Jessie Jo. I can't figure it out. Nothing else happened that day. Monday comes around. I was off work. I was upstairs. The dogs got into it in the kitchen. And this time Amanda said it seemed like she was standing there with Callie and Jessie Jo came out of nowhere. And she ended up getting bitten on the leg. Fortunately, it wasn't a severe bite, but still could have been one of the kids. Tuesday rolls around. I'm sitting upstairs. We have renovations and stuff going on at the house. I've reached out to people. I'm trying to figure out what's going on because this isn't acceptable, especially with the kids. I can't take this risk. I think everything's fine. Out of nowhere, Callie is sitting in front of me. She goes to walk away. Jessie Jo charges her, grabs her, gets in a fight. I whack Jessie Jo with my hand, or actually a notebook that I picked up, spiral-bound notebook. She then turns and charges me. Completely out of character. In almost a decade of having that dog, she's never done anything remotely close to that, especially to me. So at that point, I said, we got to get her into a vet. Something's not right. If she's going to charge me, she could very easily end up charging one of the kids and hurting them or somebody else, God forbid. So take her to the vet, and the vet thinks that there could be some sort of mental problem, cognitive impairment, dementia, something like that. The things that we as humans frequently associate with us, apparently dogs can have a lot of the same stuff. So because of the risk factors in her age and whatnot, she was put down. It was hard. It was hard on me. It was hard on my wife, hard on my kids. She was a rescue. So I was an active duty military guy when I got her. And it was probably the dumbest decision on paper that I could have made because I didn't have anybody really, if I got deployed or whatever. I don't know what I was thinking, but it worked out. And then Amanda came into the picture, and then the kids, and she's been with us ever since. The kids haven't known a life without her until now. So it's been very hard on them. This is their first real loss. When my dad passed, they were really too young to kind of understand that. So it's been very, very hard on them because at their ages, you can't really wrap your mind around the permanence of death. And I hate that for them. So the one good thing, or thing that I feel good about in the situation, is that we gave her almost a decade of a life that she had never known, a loving home, a safe home, didn't have to worry about food, didn't have to worry about medical care or water. She always had plenty of love. All her needs were met. So, and that was not the case prior to her being surrendered to the rescue and then me adopting her. So that kind of sets the background for what I want to talk about next. I had a grandmother pass away when I was in the military, and that was my first real loss. I say that because I had a couple friends or acquaintances, people I knew had died, but I hadn't been very close with them. And when my grandmother passed away, there I was, active duty military. And obviously, you know, in your early 20s, there's a way that you think men behave. And that was the way I thought I needed to behave. So I didn't really show that. I didn't really express that grief, at least in ways that would be recognizable as grieving. I got in more fights. I drank more. I was very withdrawn, angry. The unhealthy ways of expressing that grief are the avenues I turned to. Fast forward to when my dad passed away. I kind of had to figure it out. I knew that I couldn't go to that behavior, being a father and a husband, and much more of an adult at 27 than I was at 21. So I had to kind of roadmap it out for myself. Dad certainly wasn't like the king of stoicism, but we never really talked about it. So with this opportunity, and I hate saying it like that, but life happens, so you can't really control what gets you to this point. What is done as far as Jesse Joe is. So with this opportunity now with the kids, teaching them, number one, that it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to have regret, remorse, guilt. Even them, you know, they weren't directly responsible for her welfare, but there's guilt involved. I should have pet her at this time, or I should have given her this treat, or, you know, all the things that are normal emotions in the wake of grieving and loss. And especially for the boys, teaching them that it's okay to feel those emotions. It's okay for it to bounce all over the damn cycle and back and forth again, and relief on some levels because she's not suffering, and then guilt about feeling the relief. And I was telling my wife, it's a shitty situation. It just sucks. The whole situation sucks, losing the dog. But this is a learning experience for them. And as hard as it is as an adult for me to kind of understand why we're having these roadblocks, you know, sometimes in the morning, not wanting to get ready for school. Hey, I miss Jesse Joe, I miss the dog, or whatever. Letting them know that it's okay to miss the dog. It's okay to be upset. Life does go on. There are still things we have to do. As children, it's, you know, go to school. We did give them the option of taking that immediate day afterwards off. And one of the three took us up on that. But the life goes on. You have to go back to work. You have to continue to move forward. You can't stay in that time period, but it is okay to feel that pain. And it's okay to express that pain. I'm certainly not a parenting guru. I'm definitely not anybody that has their shit all figured out. I'm very much winging this and trying to draw on people with more life experience and more authority on the subject than me, and kind of balance that out. So if this doesn't fit for you, then that's great. I'm just trying to copy the things that my dad did very, very well, and then fill in the gaps where either by choice or circumstance, there wasn't that opportunity for me growing up. So I think it's important to kind of look at these hands that were dealt and try to make the best of it. Another one where I didn't handle it so well was Christmas Eve. We had a pipe freeze and then bust in the house. I didn't handle that one so well. So that's one of those that I hope they didn't kind of like ingrain into their memory of, wow, Dad did this in this situation. Like, I would rather them not copy that. Or, you know, that memory can just be forgotten. Hopefully, with my luck, it probably won't. So I think that it's important to look at these situations that come up and try to find a teachable moment in them. And this is kind of the direction I had in mind for the channel, was just kind of sharing life experience, and in the hopes that maybe if somebody else is looking for answers and this happens to be an answer that helps them, a small chance though that might be, that maybe that'll be the case. So dogs are rough. You know, my 8-year-old, he just turned 8, a couple weeks before Christmas, said, why don't dogs live as long as we do? Or it's not fair that dogs don't live as long as we do, which is kind of two issues with it. It's not fair has been something he's been saying a lot lately, and I've had to kind of correct that mindset, because life in and of itself is not fair. But in this situation, I was a little bit more lenient with that, and I said that I had heard somebody say that dogs don't live as long as we do because when dogs are born, they already know how to love, and be happy and make the most out of each day, and they don't have to stay here as long as we do to figure that out. So it takes us a lot longer as humans to learn that. Theologically sound, probably not. Biologically sound, probably not. But I think that seemed to help him. I overheard him telling his little sister the same thing, so that stuck with him a little bit. I will say that in the wake of the call being made that we're taking her to the vet and she was going to be put down, I wanted to give them some control. My wife and I talked about it. She wanted to be there too, but ultimately it was my dog, so if the kids didn't want to go and they wanted to stay home, I was going to take her. And they wanted to go, so we all go to the vet, Waterworks, and everybody. We get in there, and the vet gives them 2 shots. The first shot is a sedative, and the second shot is what actually stops the heart. So all the kids were in there. She got the first shot. I asked the kids, I said, if you want to stay for the second shot, you can. She's not going to feel anything. You're not going to see anything. At this point, it's up to you. And they elected to go to the car with their mom, and I stayed in there with her. And I think that just giving them those little moments where they had some control, or felt like they had some control over the situation. I know as a parent, because I said so is a big thing, and there are times when that's absolutely appropriate, I think. But I didn't want them to feel like they had to bottle their feelings up, and I didn't want to assume that I knew what they wanted to do in that moment. So it's one of those things where it's like it's done now, so you hope you make the right call. But we had her cremated, got her ashes back. We're going to do a little burial here at the house, and the kids want to put a marker up for her. So I'll probably have them draw something, and then I'll do a stencil and wood burn it and varnish it and put it up for her. But it's crazy. These dogs are with us for a relatively short amount of time in the grand scheme of things. But for me, that's almost a third of my life that dog was in it. And for these kids, the entirety of their lives, that dog's been there. So kind of drives home the point. Callie's been getting a lot of extra love at the moment. She's, I think, as confused as the rest of us because there was no prolonged illness before this. It was everything's fine, and then, oh my God, we're in crisis mode, and went from being a 2-dog happy household to, in the span of a couple days, and then even more severely in a couple hours, wasn't the case anymore. So, if you have dogs, time goes by fast. Chances are a lot of y'all don't need me to say that to know that. But here's to hoping that we take all the good things that our fathers did and then add on to them with the good things that we do in our life, and hopefully raise kids that are great men and women to take our place when it's all said and done. All right, guys, stay safe. Give your dog some extra love. All right, see you.
What are you doing?
Hi, how are you? How you doing, stranger? How you doing?